Welcome back to DASAR. My name is Darshan Doshi, as you probably already know. I have another fantastic guest with me today, Rohan Wekhande. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for a few years, inspired by him, and this should be a really interesting podcast for you today. This is the part of the D2C Brands podcast series on DASAR. So, Rohan, welcome to DASAR.
Thank you for inviting me, Darshan. It's a great pleasure. Your podcasts have been learning experience for me personally as well. So I think I'm glad to be here. I hope I can add value to our listeners.
I've known you for a few years. I'm pretty sure there's a lot to learn for many people, including me. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about D2C brands. What does it take to start a D2C brand? You know, the early days from selecting a product to launching a product to figuring out the online selling channels to logistics, operations, and the whole lot, right? So how do you go from starting identifying a product to maybe about 10 lakh rupees of revenue per month? Last week we covered Shoptimize, where Mangesh said, Shoptimize can help you go from 10 lakhs to over a crore in monthly revenue. So, but what we are doing is now we are going to go the first part of it. So Rohan, before we get to D2C brand and your own brand, Fitster5, I want to talk about you. And, you inspired me to get on my fitness journey. I remember you maybe 5-7 years ago starting your own fitness journey. And that changed your life, correct. Not only from a physical front, but even as a person, from a career front also. So, how has fitness helped you launch Fitster5?
As an entrepreneur, we always say that there has to be a problem statement which should come from within, right? So this was I always wanted to start something of my own, and during that time, what happened was I am a tennis player, right? So I always wanted to do something physical every evening. Otherwise, I would become cranky. I couldn't eat well. I couldn't sleep well, right? So then when we started doing jobs and all those things, so tennis kind of takes a backseat. So I started gymming. That's when I started getting hooked to gymming, right? Gymming and fitness as a whole. And when I wanted to start something of my own, it has been a very interesting journey, right? Because after there was a point in time in my life where I said that enough of the job, right? And I wanted to start something of my own. E-commerce was it was just starting up in India in 2015, 16. And I was mentoring one or two of students, which I was part of an entrepreneurship school over there. And I started researching about the same and I found it fantastic. Scott Weichler was one of the first podcasts which I heard on building brands online. He's a very famous Amazoner who has been a millionaire by selling products on Amazon in US. So it inspired me and I started researching about it. I had stumbled upon this one idea of like doing an hand embroidered office wears for women, because women shop a lot. That's what the notion was, right? And I thought that let's jump into that. I traveled across the western part of India, met artisans. We started that business quickly. Like in 40 days, I was up and running with that business. After 3 months, I realized that I don't want to do this, right? What problem I'm solving, what my personality I'm bringing into this product line. But good thing happened was I understood the business. I understood how e-commerce works, right? And during this particular time in my subconscious mind, I started thinking what to do, how to do. I wanted to buy a shaker, a protein shaker for myself. And India didn't had great protein shaker. They had this very bad looking plastic bottle. I hate plastics, by the way. And it didn't add any value. So I said, why India doesn't have good shakers, right? At a very good cost, because it's a huge upcoming fitness market. And that's when the idea of Fitster5 the gem of an idea was born. That protein shaker was that one thing which had a problem and I wanted to solve that problem. And that's how the journey of Fitster5 began for me.
Brilliant. And I can see one of those Fitster5 products. Maybe you can display those. I've been using the Fitster5 stretch bands, and they've been very useful. Fitster5 today is doing phenomenally well. It's one of the fastest growing brands. You're on Cred Club as well. But if you were to start a business as a D2C brand today, right? Knowing what you know, how would you start? How much capital would it take, right? And how would you distribute?
Okay. I would always start with a MVP, with a minimal product range, but with a vision of scalability. So your idea should be scalable. That has to be the center of everything. But you can always start small. The way I have started, I would exactly start the same
Maybe you
way.
can share that.
Idea behind Fitster5 is that you are working out while you are not working out. You are still working out. That's the whole idea. So after that 1 hour of your workout, you have to take care of your body. Otherwise, that 1 hour of work will go in vain. So if you see our product range, right? Resistance band, stretchable resistance band, protein shakers, electric protein shaker looks cool, but also solves the purpose. Then we have different range of tumblers. Why are these tumblers? Because when you are going to office or when you're working from home, you should not use the dip wala green tea. You should use fresh green tea. So this tumbler, you can always make fresh green tea, keep it for at least 8 hours. It keeps hot for 6 hours. It keeps fresh for 8 hours. Your juices, shakes should not be canned. It should be freshly made at your home. You can just pour it in. You can take it to your office or anywhere you go. It stays fresh for 24 hours. So that is the range which we want to get into, which looks good and solves the purpose. And that's how I started my journey. So you should not waste your time with too many of SKUs. Focus on 2 to 3 SKUs and also study platforms, how platforms work, like how Amazon work. So Amazon is a great starting point for anyone, right? Because give you instant visibility and you can test your product over there. You can build reviews, you can test your product, you can see if this is working, this is not working, and then scale it from there. Then you can get into your own website. Now in last 1.5, 2 years, there have been so many platforms. There is Men's XP, there is Cred Club, there is PropShop24. There are so many of them. Flipkart, Myntra are already there. But this will give you a minimum viability, which I talked about, of the product. And then you can scale from there. And Fitster5, that's why is in a very unique position right now. I have created a basket of products which no other fitness accessory brand have in India. So it's a very different basket if you say. We are not a gym accessory company. We are neither a fitness accessory company. We are a fitness lifestyle brand. That's what we want to position it as. So the baskets, if you see, resistance bands, different kind of bottles, we are getting into a lot of different stuff right now. So it's a mix of both. It's a lifestyle product. So we want to promote fitness as a lifestyle, not just as an accessory brand.
So I want to just go a little deeper on identifying the top 2 to 3 products to kind of get started. I aspire to launch a D2C brand. I have a few in my mind which we'll talk separately. But how do you go about selecting the first product and how much capital, how much money did it take for you to launch, and how much should you allocate for someone who's thinking about getting started?
You should ask what problem it is solving for you first. That should be your first thing while selecting a product. Once you have solved that problem, then it becomes very easy. Then it is very analytical, right? There are different tools available in the market where you can do primary market research. For example, resistance bands. So what is the fitness industry looks like? How much is that into home workouts? You can do that research. Second, there are a lot of tools available in the market like Jungle Scout. It's a Chrome extension which you can use anywhere, and it tells you how much sale an Amazon seller is doing. So you type resistance band, you enter it, you can run Jungle Scout on that, and you can see the entire data. So if you think that, this is a very good market, they are selling like 1,000 pieces a month or 100 pieces a day, that's a good market, right? So you are in a good position. But then also you have to understand that these guys are there for a longer time. What new you can bring in that? So there has to be that mix and match, and then you finalize that product. And also it's a lot of guts, gut feeling is there. Everything is not analytical in entrepreneurship. If everything was analytical, probably these startups wouldn't have started, because then they would have said कि यार Reliance के पास इतना पैसा है. But still there are also many startups which are coming in which are doing pretty well, right? So there are a lot of this gut feeling which comes in, and you have to go by that gut.
So that's the conviction
part. Second is the capital allocation, right? Capital allocation is something which is very personal. I think because how much money you can allocate and how fast you want to grow. I would rather say that 10 to 15 lakhs initially, and second phase another 15 lakhs is what you should plan it out. And second phase should be typically after 6 months, because you make a lot of mistakes during that time. There are a lot of inventory issues. There might be factory issues. Factories. There are a lot of third-party manufacturers which will go wrong for you in terms of experiences. there can be losses over there. So but that losses can be your lessons for life. So I would always say that 50% for the phase 1 and 50% for the phase 2. And 50% for the phase 2 is the most critical part, because that's when you build, right? Because you have already made mistakes and you have already learned from it. So that's what I would suggest. So something like our lifestyle kind of a brand, you can go from 10 lakhs to 30 lakhs, like anywhere in between in phase 1, and typically the same amount in phase 2. And typically between phase 1 and phase 2, you will need 6 to 8 months time.
Okay, so that's really good. Okay, now this is for people who kind of, it becomes a how to. How do I launch a D2C brand? The next part of it is sourcing, right? So how do I source products? How can I reliably look at probably importing it, getting it, with my own branding, the branding colors, the design, all of this in a very quick, MVP manner.
Correct.
From China, Southeast Asia, India, maybe some thoughts on that?
Yeah. So right now it's very easy. If you see, there are a lot of platforms which are there in globally available, right? There are global sourcing websites which are there. You can source from typically anywhere in the world, like from 100 countries in the world. It's a simple Google search which you have to do. There are Alibabas of the world. There are sourcing website, different kind of sourcing website. India has India Mart. So there are different pockets if you see. So like for example in fitness, where you want to source your materials from, or where you want to get your products done from, right? So typically it's North India, where you have this Jalandhars and Patialas of the world, where they have a lot of manufacturing units, right? So you can source it from there. Yoga factories typically are in Kerala and some part of Gujarat and Rajasthan as well. So you will get all these things. So I'll give examples of fitness products only. In China, if you see, so China has different clusters. Alibaba.com is a phenomenal website to look into that. But you also need to understand that where these materials are getting sourced from. So typically, if you are getting into electronics, it's Shenzhen and Guangdong area, right? If you want to get into heavy machinery, that kind of stuff, or toys, it's in Shanghai, the northern part of China. Somewhere in between, we have these tumblers and plastic materials and high quality stainless steel products in Ningbo area and Zhejiang area. So you need to understand where you are sourcing it from, because if you source a tumbler from Guangzhou area, it will be expensive, because sourcing, transport, everything, and probably that shop is more of a trading shop. So you need to figure out which is a trading shop and which is a manufacturing, because sourcing is the most important point, because that's where your top line and bottom line will matter, right? If you are sourcing it from an agent, obviously your costs will be high. So you need to have that study, you need to have that research, that where these raw materials are cheaper and where there are larger factories. And typically, I would suggest don't go for like factories which are 20 years old. For new products, they will not enjoy that much, because they are used to MOQs like 50,000 and 1 lakh MOQ ka order, right? And we are typically looking at 500 pieces, 1,000 pieces. And we also want to innovate, because we are startups, right? We want to innovate. So they will not be able to, because they already have a setup, right? And don't go for very young manufacturers also, because the chances of risks are very high over there, right? So typically it should be around 4 to 6 years of experience manufacturers, which are verified by Alibaba and Alipay and all these people, because that is a risk mitigation which we have to do. And then go for it, because they are forthcoming. They will give you 5 different ideas, because they want to establish their market, and they know that if you do well, they do well, right? And they can sell it to other manufacturers as well. To understand that where the raw materials are. So our raw material for latex band comes from high quality Malaysian latex. You have to know why Malaysian latex is high quality. It's 100% natural latex.
That kind of research.
Is very important. Yeah.
That was good. That was really good in kind of breaking down how do you source, where do you look. Now comes the tough part of selling and selling online. And I know you mentioned, Amazon, and set up a Shopify or Myntra or Cred. But I'm kind of starting off right now, right? So how do I figure all of this out? And then how does social media, digital marketing, my online presence, how does that all work? Maybe you can decode that for us.
There are different facets of it, right? For Amazon, for your own website, Shopify, or any other platform. Now it has become a content game. It has always been, but now you can see it on your face, right? Because you don't have a showroom. You don't have retail shops across India, but you have to sell across India. So how do you stand out digitally? So your content has to be your king. So whatever product you are selling, you have to build the content around that. So your content game has to be A1. I think that has to be the first, which is non-negotiable for any digital only brand.
And that comes from?
I've always been a creative guy throughout my life. So that has always been my USP, and also the kind of team which I have with me. I have always been into that circle, so I've got that team, which is a creative team. So my strong point in Fitster5 is creative content creation, right? So probably a person which might have similar product will not be able to compete with me, because I always churn out different content every month with my team. So because that's my USP. Probably your USP might be something else. So focus on your USPs, and that becomes your selling point, because then you say, what is the differentiation? I think our differentiation is content creation. Second part of that is, after that content creation, how to reach people. Right? We typically employ subject matter experts in this. So Amazon has different marketing for your own website marketing capabilities you need. So for example, for Shopify, you need a solid guy who can do a Facebook, Instagram marketing, a solid guy who can do Google marketing, and a solid person who can manage your SEO. So typically you will not find that in one agency. So you have to stumble upon these good freelancers who are experts in their own field. Like, because that's what my experience has been, that a typical guy who does a Shopify website marketing will not be able to pull it off the Amazon marketing. So you need to find these, and there are a lot of these freelancers which are now, this is a growing tribe, with this young millennial India. They don't want to work for one brand. They want to freelance, right? Because they want to grow also with their own expertise and with their own knowledge with different brands. So to find that, you can find those people on Fiverr, you can find those people on Internshala. There are a lot of these websites which are available. And for me, it has been a blessing that I found that into my own ecosystem, typically effectuation, the people I know, and that's how I found them. So that, and your marketing costs are very high in this kind of a business. So you can't have this typical approach of, oh, we are making losses, because first you will probably make loss out of it. Marketing expense should be around 25 to 30%, including everything. So your this can be your spends, your content generation, and your platform fees. It can't go beyond 30%. If it goes beyond 30%, then you're making losses. So it has to be very tight. But initial period, you can go up to 40%. But eventually it need to be optimized. So you have to take care of that. So these are the three critical elements you have to think of. And fourth, I think you have to focus on your brand, and your brand building will happen only through your website, and your website sales will generate that. Because Amazon is just a platform, it will give you volume, it will give you numbers, but it also eats up a lot of your revenue, profits as well. So that's why you need to build your brand, because once people start believing in your brand, they will start going on your website, and that's how you build equity over the period of time. So I'm very happy that we have been continuously doing 1200 to 1500 orders only through our website every month, because then it gets validation from a customer that he's coming back to me. There have been instances that a customer has bought it, and then he has bought it again. For whom? For his friend, for his wife, for his girlfriend, or for her boyfriend, whatever, right? So this is a validation. So these are the 3 points you have to cover if you want to market it and you want to start selling, because you are not an expert, you are not a digital expert, right? So you have to depend on these freelancers, these good agencies, these good digital agencies who can do good digital marketing.
Rohan, that has been extremely insightful. I want to now talk about and learn from you about branding. I've seen you do a phenomenal job of branding Fitster5, your own creative team. So maybe your views around branding and how one should think about it.
Yeah. So if you see, I never learned branding that way, but how it has evolved is because I have always been a creative person. I have always liked design. I had an eye about certain things. I used to love photography, videography, and audiovisual films, movies, right? So that flair came from there. If you go back in time, if you see our education system, we are not design thinkers. So our entire education system have been designed to create baboons because it was clerks, and that's why there is a lot of design deficit in India per se. But last 10 years have been phenomenal because of this global trends, ICSC coming in, IB boards coming in. If you see uh, universities like Flame, who have focused a lot on liberal arts and all those things. So if you see now people who have in last decade particularly who have come up with the startup culture and all these things, they have focused a lot of on design. Even if they are into manufacturing, founders entire element has been designed, right? So that has been my strength because of different reasons, because as I told you, creativity has always been my pursuit in doing anything. Even of starting Fitster5, it has always been that creative pursuit ki isko kaisa alag bana sakte hai, how can we do it differently, right? The same thing can be done differently. So branding plays a very important role in that. Branding has a lot of different elements. You have to create that personality. So we'll take an example of Fitster5. Okay. So when I talked about Fitster5, what I thought was it should represent a millennial brand. So Fitster was born out of fitness plus hipsters. So it was Fitster. And Fitster was sounding incomplete to me. So I can't explain how it works, but it comes from my subconscious mind. Okay. So I said Fitster incomplete lag raha hai. So what we will do is we'll add something to it, make it complete. Then I thought about it for a day or so. Then I said five is a very magical number in fitness, if you say. So five repetitions, five sets, you know. So why not Fitster5? It has a good zing to it. And that's how Fitster5 came into existence. So what will be the personality of Fitster5? It can be a millennial young brand who represent power, who represent strength, and who represent fashion as well. So I said, let's do black, white, and orange. Orange color represents power, fitness, that kind of strong personality. And that's how, if you see, our website is created around black, orange, and white. So that's what brand personality looks like. And when you see that personality, you get that. So every color has a psychological effect on you. So orange has that effect on you. You know, strength, strong, and all those things. So, and then you have to communicate that to your audience, and that forms a brand persona. And so there are so many thought process which goes on to it. You create these visuals, you create these designs, and people don't appreciate that in India. So there has been a lot of lag. If you see, traditional businesses don't think design way. And as I explained before, it has been our educational problem. But now it has been changing really fast. And I have been fortunate enough that because I have done this like 3 years back, 3.5 years back, there have been a lot of people from the ecosystem who want to associate with me to do that branding stuff, their how it can be represented. Though I don't design it myself, but I have this design strategic ideas which I ideate with our creative team. And our creative team is not just designer, right? So there are filmmakers, there are these photographers. We all sit together and we brainstorm, and then there are a lot of ideas coming. And one more thing, I only work with people who are very young. So 25, 26-year-old keeps my mind fresh, and their ideas are very fresh. Their ideas might not be practical sometimes, but then that's where I come into picture, right? So have that right balance between commerce and creativity.
And you and I have talked a lot about how do we give wings to the creative people, right? Those who have, like, how do you add commercial or commercializing layer on top of creative entrepreneurship, right? The creative folks that are out there. Now, that's a challenge in India, but looks like we are moving in the right direction at a very fast pace. And that brings me to my next question. You're also the head of audio video production of IPAR International Theatre Festival, and that's out of your passion. And you have this wonderful creative team. So maybe you can help answer, why the curiosity of being a part of the theatre festival, and also a little bit about your creative team, because that becomes your forte, right? Which replicating it becomes slightly difficult for anyone else.
Correct. IPAR International Theatre Festival is a very unique festival. It is powered by an ITI. It's an International Theatre Institute, a body by UNESCO. The opportunity came as a surprise to me because it has been started by one of my favorite mentors from my MBA days, Prasad Vanarase. He had been Dean of Performing Arts at Flame University, and we had this interesting program called Global Program during our MBA days, where you can select any kind of activity which is a creative activity. It can be painting, sculpting, any kind of thing. I always wanted to like learn theater, like because it fascinated me. I came from a very small town where we have very limited resources in terms of this creative pursuits, because it was considered as extracurricular, and it was just, and I took that course and we hit it off like crazy, like me and Prasad sir. He is more than mentor to me. He's more like a friend to me now. So when he came up with this idea, he called me. He said that I'm forming this core team, and would you like to be part of it? That time I had just left my job and I was just trying to toying up with the idea of Fitster5, right? So that time I said, why not? I just jumped into it because I really wanted to do something in this theater space, and this I wanted to know creative people around Pune and what they do, how they do it. So I was told to head audio visuals, though I had never done that before. So that is the confidence which mentor brings into you. So he said that no, you can do it. And then he said that we'll tie up with one of the film and television institutes around Pune, and their interns will come. They will shoot it, but you have to be a creative producer. It is kind of a CP kind of a role. That's what they call it. So I said, why not? And then I started working with this. So there were interns which joined us. We started working together. Found friends in them. I found mentees in them. Like I used to mentor them, like whatever I know, small things, and we formed a team out of that. And from one thing led to another, and we have a small studio set up right now inside Fitster5, which we also do it for other clients as well. And that's when I realized one thing, that never ever say no to opportunity which you are passionate about, because that might lead to something else, and you can connect the dots, because some opportunities come to you which you think it comes from nowhere, and then it just start making sense after 2 years, right? That's how it started making sense for me. And now if you see, now this creative team have been responsible for Fitster5 growing so much, and for other clients as well. I don't want to name them, but we have been doing a lot of extensive work in branding, 3D product model design, and all these things. And it has been a phenomenal journey, because it has been a learning curve for me. I learned so much from them, because their perspectives are different. They are fearless, they are very free. We have been very structured in our way of thinking, but they are so free spirited, and it has been a journey in itself. And it had helped me in carving this my niche of doing branding for other clients as well as for Fitster5. So we have formed this team inside Fitster5, which has been a very unique model in itself.
Brilliant. I hear a lot of effectuation. And for those who don't know what effectuation is, it's a decision-making framework that Dr. Saraswati came up with. Rohan, this has been an interesting podcast so far. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. And, one of my favorite questions is kind of trying to find out what are the guiding principles in your life. These are the things that you live by on a day-to-day basis.
I keep it very simple. If it excites me, I do it. Otherwise, I don't. So it has to come from heart. So any decision in my life, day-to-day decisions, whether today I have to go for a workout or not, whether I should engage with this person or not, whether I should take up this work or not, all depends on the excitement which it creates. I think it's a Rumi line. Every call that excites your spirit, that's what it says. Every call that excites your spirit is my guiding principle of life.
And I've seen that happen with you, and it's so refreshing to see that, where what motivates you, what excites you, go do it, and have fun in life, because then life is much more fulfilling.
Correct.
At that point
Correct.
of time. Correct. At DASAR, one of the important parameters is financial independence, and all what you've talked about, launching your own D2C brand, is an effort towards becoming financially independent, and money plays an important role in life.
Correct.
Right? So maybe your thoughts on wealth and money?
Over the period of time, I have matured when it comes to money and wealth. Because before I'm a very flashy spender. If you see, in the early period of my life, I used to spend on watches, I used to spend on good clothes, and it was a vanity proposition for me. I still like it. I don't deny that. Over the period of time, what I have realized, I have come to that state of mind, that if I don't have this, then what? It doesn't really matter. So you have to come to that stage. So there has to be those 3-4 things which you think has to be there. You can't live without that. So I'll give you examples. Can I live without spending on fitness and health? No, I can't. If tomorrow I have kid, whether I want to spend on his or her education or not, I don't want to compromise on that. Travel, I never want to compromise on, right? But whether I have a Vento right now and I have to buy a mug, doesn't really matter. If it comes, well and good. If it doesn't, it really doesn't matter because it solves my purpose. So materialistic things, I have realized that weighs down your own entrepreneurship journey. And I'm really excited about this entrepreneurship journey rather than this materialistic thing over the period of time. So wealth for me is more about independence of time rather than money, or I can't put number on that because number is very subjective also. For you, a 10 lakh a month can be lesser. For me, it can be like a crazy number per month. Correct? So I think independence of time is the biggest wealth which anyone can ever have. These are the three things which a person has. I think is the most wealthiest. Otherwise, it's just a number, right?
Incredible. So thanks a lot, Rohan. This has been a fantastic podcast. I hope you found this useful too.
I loved it. I've not been the most articulate in general, but I think you bring out the best in me. So thank you so much for that.
No, I think you've been phenomenal, and hopefully we can get you as a part of, the DASAR Club online community, where we are trying to get more people start on their entrepreneurship journey, start on their financial independence journey, and just, do things that make them happy and fulfilling.
Darshan, we have always been part of these accelerator programs together, and you know how passionate I am for that. Right. So you call me anytime and I am always available.
Phenomenal. So I hope you found this podcast insightful. I've learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot from Rohan. I've known him for a few years. He inspired me to my fitness journey. I use a lot of his products, the Fitster5 products as well. And there's a lot to learn from people who have kind of gained these experiences themselves. If you are on your journey to becoming financially independent, to kind of pursue your creative side, to launch your own venture, or to get fit, or to start a hobby, join DASAR Club. Okay, go to www.dasar.in. You'll find a whole lot of things over there, and I'll be there with you. So hopefully, we can get on the journey together. Thanks a lot for joining again. See you soon.